Thank you to the Living Planet Working Group for having myself, Martha Williams, and my partner, John Silipoti, to this gathering today to talk about Shift the Conversation, Navigating Charged Environments, conversation lab that we are launching for changemakers that starts February 25th. And thank you especially to the board members, Jan, Liz, and Sierra for your support. So today our intention is to tell you a little bit about the conversation lab coming up, as well as to give you a sense of what we do at BreakBread World beyond BreakBread. And so with that, let me just give you a little bit of a sense of who I am and who John is. So I am a longtime student of transformation. Um, I am a certified co-active coach and facilitator. I'm a culture maker. And I am an award-winning filmmaker and a choreographer. And I have a BA in anthropology from George Washington University, where I played Division I basketball. And I also have an MFA from film directing from the California Institute for the Arts in film directing. Um, John got his foray into the art of listening through jazz. And after his music career, he moved to entrepreneurship and became a business owner. First, he had a record label in the 90s, and then he moved to have a digital technology company where when he raised his kids. He's a 20-year practitioner of non-dual healing, men's work facilitation, and he's a certified soulful facilitator. He studied at Wesleyan University and has a BA from the New England Conservatory. So with that, we'd love to get started on a presentation. I will tell you a little bit more about BreakBread World, and then John will pop in to talk about the ecosystem of conversation. So BreakBread World is named after our flagship process, BreakBread. And BreakBread is an intimate conversation over a shared meal. Um, we have a conversation around one single carefully crafted prompt that is related to whatever organization or community we're working with. It's a carefully woven container facilitated by our trained conversation keepers. It is a trust building program that shifts the conversation and over time builds cultures of care and respect for communities and organizations. But BreakBread World offers so much more than the BreakBread process. We've developed an approach to conversation that invites people to have more awareness and agency in their conversations. And we work with conversation because we believe small shifts in conversation can have the power to shift relationships and thus shift the world around us. Consider someone who is typically apologetic, who stops apologizing, or someone who has all the answers and starts to listen. We think of conversation and shifting the conversation as a trim tab on an ocean liner. A small shift begins to turn the huge vessel of culture. Bucky Fuller uses this analogy of the trim tab. So on the rudder of a huge vessel, it takes an incredible amount of energy to turn an ocean liner, right? But if you open up this little trim tab on the side, it starts to incrementally change the direction of the ocean liner. And that's what shifts in the conversation can do. And the quickest way to shift the conversation is to shift how you gather. How you gather sets the stage for new conversations to emerge. Imagine a Zoom meeting where people come in late, aren't present, there's no intention, right? It's a very different thing than when there is organization, there's buy-in, there is intention. So what we do, as you can see, is so much more than BreakBread. For organizations, we also do conversation labs, conversation coaching and training for teams and leaders. And we also do consulting in the areas of communication and culture. So we are launching Shift the Conversation in February. It's a program for change makers. It's Shift the Conversation, Navigating Charged Environments. And that's what we want reflection here on today. This will be an experiential, generative conversation learning lab with a limit of 25 people, and will culminate in an in-person meeting in the fall, and perhaps even a group-led discussion at the SVN convening, Social Venture Network, for those who don't know what that is. And we are offering a significant discount to Living Planet Working Group uh, and members of SVN, Social Venture Network. We'd like to also talk with Investor Circle and Impact Entrepreneurs and B-Lab. So we'll see if we can connect with these really powerful organizations and to their constituency. And the discounted price for this upcoming lab is $200 for these 4 sessions at the for the Living Planet Working Group members and SVN. Otherwise, it's $250. And the reason we're bringing this to you here today is because the idea for this series was seeded here at the Living Planet Working Group. It started with a conversation you all had, which was, how do you talk about sustainability with others? Which leads to the question, how do you talk about anything where there are strong feelings? So Janet Morgan came to us and said, hey, what about leading a session around this topic? And my response was, well, I don't think we'll get that far in just one session. And this is where the idea for the Conversation Lab was born. What if we had a series of conversations, you met with people in between, and it was a mix of a little bit of presentation and learning and then practice. And the reason why we needed this time is because conversation is loaded with complexity. It's loaded with power dynamics. People have different worldviews, personal limitations. It's a reflection of the culture that's present for the group that you're in. Is there trust? Is there respect? What are the cultural norms inside of your group? So, and we believe that the arc of our relationships are defined by a series of conversations. So you can imagine it this way, right? That the conversation you were having with your mother when you were 10 is very different than the conversation you're having with your mother in midlife. And so we believe this sort of like the practice of shifting the conversation is really what we're giving people the opportunity to do and experience and learn. So our starting point for this conversation lab is, what do you do in the face of difficult and challenging conversations? How do you show up more, be more receptive, and contribute more? And how do we learn to generatively think together, where 1 + 1 is greater than 2? How do we create conversations capable of transforming our relationships in the world we live in? We like to say that all the technology, legislation, and money in the world cannot begin to solve our most pressing global problems without genuine supportive communication capable of bridging conflict and division across the weave of our common humanity. We see conversation as a profoundly fundamental, yet often overlooked human technology. And our theory of change revolves around helping people and organizations use this technology more effectively. We start by seeing conversation through the metaphor of an ecosystem. So inside of the ecosystem of conversation is the whatever you put in there, right? It's your propensity, your personality, it's your personal history, it's the way you've been taught to have conversation, it's the culture of the groups that you are a part of, it's the tribes you're a part of, it's about power dynamics, status. It really is the expression of so much of who we are. And it's so much more than the words that we say. It's an embodied experience. That often the embodied aspect often gets overlooked, and the sort of the wide-reaching system of conversation often gets overlooked, and that's what we are working with in the work that we do. And I'm going to hand it over to John, who's going to talk a little bit more about the ecosystem of conversation. And yeah. John?
We live in a culture that there's an abundance of content and a scarcity of context. We see this in social media as an example. And the big problem is when we focus on the content only, we miss out on the relationship, on the richness, and on the depth. It's like being in the jungle and knowing the names of all the plants and the animals in that jungle, but being unable to understand the relationships. So it would be like when you see two identical looking plants, context would be knowing that if the plant is growing on a hill, it's nutritious. And if it's growing in water, it's poisonous. And likewise, in conversation, when we're too focused on content, when we're only interested in getting our point across, we're less effective than when we pay attention to the larger ecosystem. There's simply less dimension and less relationality. Some of this is about knowing yourself because you're part of the ecosystem. We have our own ways of doing conversation, habits and patterns that we've learned since we were children. Things like, do you tend to talk more or do you listen more? And why? Or what happens when you feel judged? Or what's going on when you start being judgmental? And when you feel afraid or uncomfortable, what happens in your body? And with all of these and this type of thing, the more you know about what's going on in here, the more you can learn to respond more effectively and less reactively. We expand our go-to default conversation modalities, habits, and that fills out the ecosystem. And we begin to move towards more generative, alive conversations that are more rewarding and more fulfilling for everybody. So we not only work with these personal habits, but also broader concepts that are especially important in working with difficult conversations. 3 examples of some of the concepts that we like to work with, and these are just 3 of many. When we work with people, we might work with liberating the righteous mind, asking better questions, or slowing down. Liberating the righteous mind, that's like we often tend to think in terms of right, wrong, binary, right, wrong, good, bad, us, them, life, death. This limits us, limits and constricts the conversation, our relationships. We work with how do we move beyond that binary thinking with more options, the ability to make better choices. And then there's better questions. You know, we love answers. And because when we have the answer, we can get to fixing the problem. There's a classic scene in a Pink Panther movie, long time ago. Inspector Clouseau walks up to a little old man, and next to the little old man is a wiry little dog. And Clouseau asks the man, he's French, so pardon my French, he says, "Excuse me, does your dog bite?" Little old man looks at Clouseau and says, "No." Clouseau goes to pet the dog bites him. Clouseau says, "I thought your dog doesn't bite." And the little old man says, "That is not my dog." Clouseau's not asking the right questions. The answers are only as good as the questions that we ask. And also, if the answers don't generate more questions, they might not be the best answers. And lastly, I mentioned slowing down. We live in a hyper-fast world. Technology is sped up, digital bits and bytes are flying through the air, literally at the speed of light. That's not a human speed. Philosopher Bayo Akamalafe says, "The times are urgent. Let us slow down." and we really focus on this. Susan mentioned this earlier. The most important things in life, things like respect and care and nurturance, appreciation and gratitude, are relationships. They all operate at a human pace. And if we don't allow for that, if we don't slow down, we can't fully relate and connect with people. And when we slow down, it gives a chance for hearts to open. And that's when the world changes. So I'm going to turn this back to Martha and let you
Thanks,
take it
John.
from here.
So before we get into a bigger discussion and to hear your thoughts and impressions and your questions, we thought we would have you take a 30 seconds, 20 seconds to think of a difficult conversation or challenging conversation that you're dealing with in your own life and share it in the chat. So you don't have to include names. It could be very generic. And so just take a moment quickly to 30 seconds to just think about that, what that may be. So some of the difficult conversations are coming in. You can feel free to type them in the chat. Mm. Yeah. So just reading through these, it's very, very moving to me to hear these. These are all big things, right? Knowing what to say to a friend who's dying. A group of homeowners unable to come to agreements with 18 to 20 key stakeholders. Helping someone recognize they're a good fit for the role. Not getting boundaries with mothers. Hearing that theme there. A friend who's just too overweight. Yeah. So would anybody like, I don't think we necessarily have time to workshop one of these, John. What do you think?
Yeah, I think we're at the top of the hour almost.
Right. So when we have our group, this Shift the Conversation, we will have chances to workshop ideas, like challenges that people have in their conversations. So, we would work with things like, what happens in your body when your boundaries start to get pushed, what kind of constriction happens, how to use curiosity and breath to move out of these conversations, what you need to do for say, example, you're having this 18 to 20 person conversation. Like, what do you do in the gathering? How you gather? That sets the stage for boundaries to be understood, for there be to be a shared purpose of respect, care, and trust. How do you build that inside of this small group? Um, how do you use slowing down in order to maybe stay in the conversation with your friend who's dying? Not your friend who's not your friend who's dying, but someone who's lost somebody, right? How do you stay with grief in a conversation? So, this idea of letting somebody go, like this, where your moral, how that moral feeling of like, oh, this is hard or not nice, and what if that's what comes up for you? How do you deal with those constrictions? So this is a lot of what we would be doing in our group. So I just wanted to open up the floor to any questions that may be arising, like any questions that came up for you, anything that sparked your interest that you want to hear more about. Yeah, Max, please. Thank you.
That was just fabulous, first of all.
Thank you.
I live on a planet where that all that exists for me right now.
Where, sorry, can you just repeat that? You live on a planet where what?
Where difficult conversations is all that exists. I,
Ah,
I, I started this project about how can a hotelier develop a hotel to save the world.
uh-huh.
And I ended up with an izakaya with a Japanese kabuki theater as a fun project and a nightclub that is shamanic. And but then I said, how do you turn it into a hotel? And then
Mm-hmm.
I figured, because of my love and the opportunity and the creativity, I said, I do it Japanese. So the challenge for me is how to sell $1 billion project to an American company who
Mm-hmm.
will hire Nobu to open up a restaurant, but are too far away from any other culture to actually take that on. And I'm also realizing that when you deal a global concept, you can't make it too Japanese because then you lose them. It's too intimidating. So you have to Westernize it. So it's almost like I remember Yves Saint Laurent in '94. He went to Japan to do a fall session, and he honored everything that was Japanese, but it still had the soul of France.
Mm-hmm.
So my challenge is how do you I'm sensitive to all of that, and but spending a year cooking, mentally stewing on all that, and then going public with it prior to funding is an enormous challenge.
Mm-hmm.
And what came up for me is that I would love to have a private conversation with the two of you, what I'm doing and how I can weave you into that. Because
Right.
what you could offer is just mind blowing for me.
Right. And yeah, I would love to dig into that with you, which seems it's got a lot of different tendrils to it.
Right.
But also when you're dealing with, I'll just say when you're dealing with and with maybe people not understanding or coming from different perspectives, and you're like, but we want this to happen, but we have all this stuff we have to deal with. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, in some ways, the money comes from the big corporations or American money, basically, but it's also
Okay.
controlled. It's controlled by money people that don't have an imagination necessarily
Right.
of what I'm doing.
Mhm.
And so
Yeah, and
when
mhm.
so the minute you step outside of the American idiom and you go Japan on a very high level, you completely lose people. And when you say,
Mhm.
I want your money to take that on,
Right. Yeah.
what's missing for me is that my passion and their concern of what it is that they don't understand, even though it will make more money than anything that they have, there's
Right.
a couple of bridges that I have to cross
Yeah.
where it's almost like my excitement gets in the way.
Yeah, I hear that. And it's like excitement can sometimes mean that you forget to celebrate the other people in the room. You
Yes,
forget to get really curious about what they want. You don't make enough, a lot of times excitement doesn't make room for other people. And so in those conversations, I imagine that sitting back will be really taking your time, and
right,
sitting back would be a really powerful thing to be doing. And that's a lot about knowing, sitting down and just really look at it, knowing yourself. Okay, I'm excited. I come in energetic. And this is really like that dance. You come in energetic. It's like you got to see what's happening over there. People go,
right.
whoa. And so
I,
there's something
yeah,
I'd love to chat with you more about that,
yeah,
but those are
I
some
have to
initial thoughts.
yeah, I have to separate the roles. So if you're a painter and you've locked in up for a month and this painting is coming together beyond anything that you have ever imagined,
Let me just, yeah, I
so
just want to,
how you own that, you cannot go to a gallery and do a business deal on that level, right?
right.
So you
It's
have
true.
to,
It's, well, I don't
so
know if that's totally true, but we can talk more about that. So let's just
yes,
put a pin in that and we'll have a conversation at some point. And I
thank
want to
you.
be able to hear from some other
Yes,
folks, like what maybe some of your questions maybe. Um, and is there something in the chat that, yes, Jan?
I just wanted to cut to the chase, knowing that this is just a tiny taste of what's going to happen with the
Yes.
opportunity that you've created for us. This
Yeah.
is over the next 6 months to come together for 2 hours plus at a time as a small group of 30 over and to sign up 4 sessions and to really get something out of it from everybody's point of view. And to me, it's such a bargain, and I'm signing up because in the 3 sessions that you and I have had with John, and actually a couple of the other folks. I mean, I've already learned so much, and it's made a huge difference in my life,
Mhm.
which I really appreciate. So,
Yeah.
uh,
Thank you.
maybe the crowd can you can crowdsource this group for reactions to that. But I also wanted
Yeah.
you to cut to the chase and talk about the option, the
Yeah.
opportunity that's
The
coming.
opportunity. Yeah,
Yeah.
so John is putting the actual event in the chat, and yeah, we want to just hear, what do people think about it? Does it seem like something of value that, or something that would be valuable in other changemaker communities? Yeah, so Sierra and Mira.
Oh, Mira, did you have your hand raised? Go ahead.
No, you were first. Go ahead.
Oh, I just want to say I'm just really moved, and reflecting a lot on all the ways that I can bring more regeneration to the world through conversation. At first I was thinking, oh, this is kind of a soft subject, and now I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm humbled, like how important this is and how much potential this has to heal the world. So I just
Thank
wanted to
you.
give that reflection.
Thank you, Sierra. Yeah.
And my question was answered in what was put in the chat is what were the topics?
Right. Okay, good.
I do have, never mind. Sorry, thank you.
No? Okay. Are you sure?
I
Yes,
also
Jan.
want to point out that we did talk to the board of Social Venture Network, and they will be allowing and encouraging Martha and John to post this opportunity to their list, which is 20,000 persons at this point. And so, with 30 people able to sign up for this particular thing, and you'll do it again. In other words, if you have more than 30 people, you'll do a second session. Is that right?
That's correct, right?
And
Jan, can
are
I
you
jump in
hoping?
also? Because
Sure.
Martha, I could speak to Lori Lane Zucker at Impact Entrepreneur also, because that's
Great.
30,000 people globally So that's a very good distribution, and I'm sure that they'd be interested too. You know, we can introduce you to talk about that for the
That would
premium
be
members
great.
or for the Aldi members.
Thank you so much, Iva. Yeah,
Is there a registration link? that
there
you can-
is. It is in the chat.
Oh, I didn't look down far enough. Sorry
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah, that's good.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Are there any other questions or thoughts? Oh, John, there you are.
Yeah, well, just
That's fine.
it's probably worth saying for folks who don't know, in having this conversation today, you're also having it with the Board of Investors Circle. 3 of us are present right now in the
Yes.
group, and there's some good overlap. But thing that's fascinating for me is that this is the kind of work that we would have never thought about doing over a platform like Zoom in the past, and the opportunity to be part of a self-selecting group, some of whom we know, some of whom we think we know, some of whom we don't know at all, some of whom we've never been together with in person physically before, from all kinds of different geographic and organizational backgrounds. But we seem to have, there's a thread of shared values, which is both comforting and I guess challenging for the work that's being proposed, because we don't want to just be an echo chamber. But so anyway, I think this is a great opportunity, and if I can figure out how to make it work logistically, I definitely want to be part of it and bring others along.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we were definitely thinking that the IC crowd was here. We wanted to talk to you as well. Yeah, any other thoughts or questions that arose? Yeah.
Just one quick interjection. To receive the discount for the SVN Living Planet Working Group, check off that you're a member on the application form and write the word partner, and that's also in the chat, and you'll get a 20% discount off the list price.
Yeah, and I want to thank Jeff for, bringing up the complexity of difficult conversations. And you would think that how do you have conversations about sustainability with others wouldn't be such a difficult conversation. But it is, because sustainability is a worldview. It's a way of looking at things. And not everybody thinks our way. And they might even think we're pompous for thinking that that's the way it should be. They might think that their way is the right way. And so that idea of what is right is a really interesting thing to be thinking about. It's important to feel invested and strong in what you believe. But there's also it's really important to be able to make space for more. And that's so much of what we do, is about making space for more of what's there in the moment. And slowing down helps with that, right? Like, that's why we extended that presencing. If you slow down, Max, you could say, oh yeah, they're not really, I'm feeling their bodies not feeling me. Like, my excitement has created a huge distance between me and this other person. Oh, wait, where'd they go? And then you can say, where'd you go? I'm so happy to be here. Maybe I got, so there's this opportunity in conversation to play with our relationships, our relationships to life, to our relationships to each other, and our relationships, which includes the animals and the plants and the land. I mean, the conversation are the words we speak, but it's just a relationship.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Martha and John. And I'm anticipating, because I have so many conservative/Republican friends here in particular, and new friends happening with projects I'm doing, that this is going to be enormously helpful for me. And I thank you both for developing it. And we're delighted to help you launch it.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Yeah.
So I think, Sierra, you're going to take it home right now, right? We have a few more minutes.
Well, I see Mira's hand.
Mira
you
has
your
a-
hand up.
Oh, Mira, so sorry.
Yeah, that's
Please,
okay.
go ahead.
Okay.
Okay.
I was just looking on the website and for the registration, it gives the dates, but the first one is February 24th, which is a Monday, and I didn't know if that was
That's a
intentional.
mistake.
Okay,
It should
Okay.
be a Tuesday.
okay.
Good. Thank you so much, Mira. You
I love
eagle
it.
eye as always.
Thank you.
So
Well,
so
I
we'll
was
fix
I was
that.
trying to put it on my calendar, so I just wanted to
Uh-huh.
be clear about it.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we are just getting that page up. So so things like that are helpful to hear. And we'll send out a Google Calendar and some more information once we actually get
Mhm.
do a
And
little
you'll
bit
be in
more
the
on
next
that.
newsletter of Social Venture Network.
will.
And
Yeah.
as soon as you can get the Lori Lane Zucker invite going, Iva, and the IC people, if you can agree that you would send this as part of a mailing as an opportunity with a discount, then you can, you'd probably close up 30 people within, a week or less
Hopefully,
days.
yeah. Days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's going to be no shortage of interest. I'm certainly looking forward to the possibility of joining. So huge, big, warm thank you to John and to Martha for sharing and to making this special offering for our community. And then, yeah, any way we can support them to bridge other partnerships, it sounds like that's appreciated. And yeah, if any of you have ideas of other spotlight presenters you want to hear, we have all of our dates set for 2025. We've also got most of our recordings from 2024 up on our website now at livinglab.earth. And yeah, feel free to check those out. And are there any kind of final village news, calls to action, burning questions that anybody has before we adjourn? Okay, I feel like we're all doing a really good job of just slowing down and being present with each other. It's already working. All right, well,
I
wishing
love
you
you
all,
all.
Thank you,
restorative,
everybody.
rejuvenating, regenerative 2025. We love you and we're so grateful for you.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Mhm.
Happy
Thank
New
you.
Year.
Happy New Year,
Happy New
everybody.
Year. Lots of love, everybody. Take
Bye.
care.
Thank you.
Lots of love.
Love.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.